George Orwell's 1984 is one of the greatest books ever written. The only thing wrong in the book is that his predictions were made for 1984, which I guess is technically around the time when things started getting bad in society, but it more predicts our current years, or the last 10 years of social media censorship and the death of free speech through the SJW culture and monopolized social media. But the sad thing is, his book was meant as a warning for the future, not an instruction manual. But looking at modern mainstream media, Hollywood, SJW culture, and the entirety of the monopolized, fake, corrupted social media, reading some of the important quotes from the book really shows you the reality of what we live in. Now, we already know what the reality is. You've heard about it over the last 10 years. I've made multiple videos on it. The reality of modern day is many negative things, but specifically to this, it's about censorship. How nobody's allowed to speak anymore, and if you do speak, you have to either be polite or simply agree with everyone around you to avoid causing arguments, debates, people attacking each other, etc. And one thing in particular that the book is very famous for is his concept on doublethink. If you are a person with even mild understanding of the mainstream media, you know that the mainstream media uses doublethink pretty much every single time they report on literally anything. Contradictions, manipulation, fear-mongering are their only tactics, and that's what they do using every story that they talk about. Let's read a couple quotes from the book that involve what we see in social media as well as the mainstream media these days. To know and not to know. To be conscious of a complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. That should sound like our modern mainstream media. To hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them. This is what the mainstream media does. They tell you two contradicting lies or two contradicting statements and basically confusing you to the point where you just accept whatever they say. To use logic against logic. To repudiate morality while laying claim to it. To believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy. To forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed. For example, kind of like how the mainstream media spent the last 4 years talking about how Donald Trump rigged the election 4 years ago, and now all of a sudden saying that it can't be rigged. They randomly pick things out based on time when it suits their needs. Kind of like how, as well, CNN called Joe Biden a pedophile in 2015, and then as soon as he started running for president, he was no longer a pedophile in their eyes. Politics is a really big point of it, but they do this in every capacity, not just political. And then promptly to forget it again. And above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. That was the ultimate subtlety. Consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then, once again, to become unconscious to the act of hypnosis you had just performed. Even to understand the word doublethink involved the use of doublethink. In regards to this next section, which also involves doublethink, just imagine the mainstream media and what they do, social media as well as SJW culture, what they do and what they say and the way that they think as you listen to what the book says, and just pay attention to how accurate this is. To tell deliberate lies while genuinely believing in them, showing that everybody who works in the mainstream media, pretty much all journalists, are pathological liars. To forget any fact that has become inconvenient, and then, when it becomes necessary again, to draw it back from oblivion for just so long as it is needed, as I explained earlier. To deny the existence of objective reality and all the while to take into account of the reality which one denies. This is how the entire mainstream media functions. All this is indispensably necessary. Even in using the word doublethink, it is necessary to exercise doublethink. For by using the word, one admits that one is tampering with reality. By a fresh act of doublethink, one erases this knowledge, and so on indefinitely. With the lie always one leap ahead of the truth, which is why the mainstream media doesn't just lie. They also use manipulation tactics and fear-mongering to make sure that the truth is never seen before the lie. This is why social media also functions by literally putting fake news results at the head of its search results, both on YouTube and Google, so that the truth is always seen secondly or not at all. Ultimately, it is by means of doublethink that the party has been able, and may, for all we know, continue to be able for thousands of years to arrest the course of history. And that's what's been happening for many years. Over the last 10 years, it's gone into supernova, and we're seeing extreme levels of this more than ever before. He meant this book to be as a warning, okay? But the book was about basically a government-owned utopia when he wrote this book back in 1950. However, it seems like our elites and the mainstream media and all them took this book as more of an instruction manual, because they have established everything that is written here into our reality. George Orwell was warning us, and he was right. And if the examples I just showed you are not enough, here's a few other examples within the mainstream media that use this ability of doublethink while not even realizing they're doing it. Now, I'm only going to show you 2 examples, but this is only 2 examples of hundreds or thousands that you will see from many different so-called journalists all across the internet using doublethink, and people actually get drawn into it. Articles like this one: Black Lives Matter protests have not led to COVID-19 spikes because people are staying home. So here they are trying to convince you that Black Lives Matter protests did not bring up COVID because they're at home. But how are they protesting? So this here is an example of doublethink, and dumb people will read this and actually believe that this makes an ounce of sense, because they are using doublethink to brainwash you into believing that this makes sense. And another example is idiots like this who wrote, "For the conservatives who are mad about this, yes, it is possible for a story to be factually accurate and to be part of a misinformation campaign." As if that makes an ounce of sense. But again, this is another tactic used by the media, as well as the SJW culture. It's their way of taking a statement that they know is true and is undeniable, but so that they can still say afterwards, yeah, it might be true, but it can still be used as part of misinformation, therefore it is. These are just their tactics to not only make stuff up, but to even twist reality when they can't make stuff up, so that no matter what, they always come out on top when they use their tactics of trying to brainwash the masses. These are only 2 examples that I felt were very prominent, but we see this sort of thing in the media and social media and SJW culture all the time, constantly. And this is the kind of thing, as I said, that George Orwell tried to warn us about. But, unfortunately, his book is now a reality. Can we go back? I really don't know, but I don't think so either.